My name is Melissa Jackson. I am the new head women's basketball coach here at Youngstown State, and you're listening to Into the Stands.
With us today, we have the head coach of Youngstown State women's basketball, Melissa Jackson. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So first of all, congrats on the new job. I'm sure things are going crazy, going wild for you right now, trying to get everything set up for this winter. How's everything going so far?
It's been awesome, really. Yes, it has been crazy, but it's been a really great transition, smooth transition. Obviously, I've spent a majority of my career in Northeast Ohio, so not having to move, I think really helped that transition.
That helps a
Um,
lot.
yeah, but it's been really good. Yeah, and just excited. Just a lot of moving parts right now, getting our squad together, and but yeah, very very excited.
That's awesome. So give us a little bit of background. Where do you come from? What was it that was coaching always in the plans for you, or how did you get started there?
Yeah, so originally from Northeast Pennsylvania, and grew up there, a small town called Hazleton, PA. My dad was actually my first coach. So he was a junior high boys basketball coach. And so I learned at a very young age about the game from him and was in the gym a lot. I guess I was pretty good because I got heavily recruited out of high school and was first team all state. And but I really picked a school that I fell in love with, not just for the basketball. So went to the University of Richmond, went south. So the weather kind of helped that as well. But
Yeah,
yeah, fell in love with the campus. It was a great academic institution. And as soon as I got on campus, I became injury plagued. And pretty much my whole career had a lot of different injuries that kept me on the sidelines and probably didn't have the quote unquote basketball career that I thought I was going to have in college. But really opened my eyes to the coaching side. And I didn't know if I ever was going to officially get into coaching right from the get go, but obviously having that influence from my dad. And then I had unbelievable college coaches, great mentors in Joanne Boyle, who was my head coach. And then Lindsay Gottlieb was my assistant at the time. And she's now the head coach at USC and spent some time with the Cavs too. So those people really pushed me to get into this profession, this crazy profession. And right from when I graduated, I was really really fortunate at the young age of 21 to become a Division I assistant coach at a great mid-major program at University of Delaware. We were one of the best mid-major programs in the country, and that doesn't happen. As I
yeah,
tell some of my young assistants, I was really really fortunate. I think because of the connections that I had, and I was at Delaware for 4 years. We did some amazing things there. But my husband, who I met at Richmond, he was actually a practice player for us. Was from Ohio and is from Ohio. And so he finally proposed to me when I was at Delaware. We were doing long distance. And I said, well, if you give me a ring, I will come out to Ohio. And so he did that. And, then I landed on the University of Akron staff. Jody Kest hired me. Didn't know me from Adam, but was there for 15 years and loved every second of it.
it's
Was
awesome.
her trusted assistant for 10 years and then was fortunate enough to take over the program for 5. And so spent a majority of my time in Northeast Ohio. Was lucky enough to get on Cleveland State staff last year and learned a lot, going back to being an assistant coach and won a Horizon League championship. And then Youngstown State came a calling, and it was an opportunity I really could not pass up.
That's great. So I guess one question from that is, like you said, you went into Richmond as a player and your coaches really kind of pushed you. Do
Yeah.
you ever kind of have that in the back of your mind when you're working with some of your players, like, thinking you'd probably be a good coach and kind of try and push them in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I had more of them, right?
Yeah.
So, or I've tried, and yeah, they're like, "No, coach, I'm an engineering major, or I'm stuck on nursing," and I'm like, "Oh, but you would be such a good women's basketball coach." And so I've been lucky. I've had a few that have gone into coaching, but yeah, you can kind of tell, who's going to be a good coach or who has that, drive and vision. And
Yeah.
again, I was really fortunate because I was a political science major. I thought I was going to go to law school, maybe stay in sports and be like a sports agent.
Mhm.
But they were like, no, you need to get into coaching. You would be fantastic, and forever grateful because I'm about to start 21 years in this profession, which is crazy.
That's awesome, and yeah, I know you did have a couple of, couple of girls that came out of the Akron program and are in the coaching ranks now, so that's pretty cool to kinda watch and follow them. Um, you mentioned kinda bouncing around a little bit as a coach. It's a sad, unfortunate reality of coaching. When you leave a school like Akron, right? We had a new AD come in, and it was kind of there was a lot of shifting going on anyway. How difficult is that, like, or is it almost expected when you're in that industry?
Yeah, I think it's a side of the business, that maybe isn't talked about as much, and definitely happens. And people want to bring in their own person, or whatnot. And but yeah, I think now looking back on it and everything, when I went to Cleveland State, it was really important, to talk to that administration, and
Yeah.
what they valued and all that. And then when I got involved here at Youngstown State, I really wanted, an administration that was super supportive. And I feel like I have the best athletic director in Ron Strollo right now, and so excited about his vision for women's basketball. So yeah, I mean, coaching changes happen, throughout, this profession, but just really, for me, it's all about, that support for your program. And I feel like I'm in a really, really good spot right now.
Yeah, and it sounds like, it sounds like you got a pretty good support system behind you with your husband and everybody, uh, kind of cheering you on, so that helps a lot too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the best thing, we haven't had to move, right?
Yeah.
So, Cleveland State, it was a 15-minute commute, and now I got a little bit longer of commute, but we're going to get a place here in the Youngstown area, and excited to, be around this community. They love themselves some women's basketball in Youngstown,
Oh,
so
yeah.
they have been super supportive of us so far, and I can't wait to get this arena rocking with some fans.
And, women's basketball as a whole really has been picking up. You got girls like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. You had, the success, especially in Ohio, with the Ohio State program that they've had over the past couple years. Um, Yet it's still women's sports is still that weird kind of transition period where personally I prefer to, like, when I work games or watch games, like, I liked watching the women play because they play, it almost feels like they're playing for a different reason, right? You go watch an Ohio State basketball game, you have 4 or 5 guys on the court that are working for, to make that the NBA draft, make that multi-million-dollar contract. And while a lot of the girls for in college are still working towards, the WNBA or things like that, they're playing more so because they love the game.
Mhm.
And I wanted to get your opinion on what you think of how, the women's game has been growing over the past couple of years with the people like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, um, JC Shelton here from Ohio State's another big one. And what you would say to somebody who's getting it, like, decides, oh, I want to start watching sports, what would you say to them about why they should watch women's basketball over men's, say?
Yeah. No, I love the question. So, I mean, women's basketball is so hot right now, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome, and I think we're really benefiting from, the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses and J.C. Sheldon, who you mentioned, coming off the Final Four. Obviously, it was here in Cleveland, so that was
Yep.
awesome, to have it, in our backyard. But now the WNBA is really benefiting off of what just occurred a few months ago, and so they've been able to kind of roll right into their season. So there hasn't been much of a break from women's basketball, and I think
Mhm.
that's why there's so much energy right now, and so much talk about it. So I absolutely love it. I love it for our girls. I love it for my 1-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
who's just hopefully eventually going to be a basketball player at some point. No pressure there to her, but um, yeah, no, I love the question. And I think the women's game, everyone says, it's a little bit more of a pure,
Mhm.
take on basketball. Obviously we can't dunk, although we have a couple players, now that can and are athletic enough to do that. But yeah, I also love that Caitlin Clark went to Iowa, and
Yeah.
not UConn or Stanford or Tennessee, and kind of went, against the norm, and went to her hometown and really built that program the right way. And they were always a good basketball program, but now they became an elite, and we're in the championship game. And so I think it gives females just more opportunity, and they see a player like that do something like that, and it just really speaks to our game.
Yeah. So you mentioned, going into, I think you said year number 21 as a coach. How has like NIL and the transfer portal changed your job? Obviously, there's some big differences now versus how they were even 5, 10 years ago. How's that affected the way that you recruit and the way that you run your program?
Yeah, it's changed drastically. I think I wake up every day and think about NIL and the transfer portal and all that. And that was definitely not the case even 5 years ago, I think, And so, yeah, you have to adjust and adapt, to the landscape of college athletics right now. And if you don't, you're going to be behind, and you're not going to be as successful as you need to be. So, again, I feel like I'm blessed to be at a place like Youngstown State that really supports it. We've been ranked. They do rankings here in the Horizon League, and we've been ranked number one as far as NIL goes. And so we have a compliance department here that is really versed in it, and it's been great for recruiting. Again, I think the support that is around our community here at YSU helps that. But yeah, you have to adjust and adapt at this point in time. And I think for us, though, from a recruiting standpoint, we talk about it. I support it. I tell my recruits, I tell my players right now that if NIL starts to affect your basketball as well as your academics, then I'm going to have probably a major problem with it. But we recruit, high level student athletes that are really committed to the classroom, really committed to the court. And now they have an opportunity to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to be super supportive of that. And it's been a positive experience for us. We create a culture here at Youngstown, and I think I did this at Akron, that people want to be here, and they want to be in our program, and they love our locker room. And so we haven't had a lot of transfers, knock on wood. And so I think, we're going to continue to do that to foster an environment that people want to be here. They want to stick around. They want to develop, from their freshman to sophomore to junior to senior year. And that's also another thing that college athletics, that I love about it. So seeing that freshman development, year by year. But yeah, not much is going to change there when we talk about our culture.
Yeah. So the other, just getting hired by Youngstown State once again. Congrats on that. It's a big time job. Can you walk us through what the process looks like for a Division 1 coach when you're quote unquote job hunting? Is it more so that you're seeking out new opportunities? Are you getting phone calls? Is it a mix of both? Like, how does that work?
Um, Yeah, I think it all maybe depends where you're at in your career, and maybe where you're at in your profession at that time. And for me, it might have been a little bit different. Obviously being a head coach before, and going back to being an assistant at Cleveland State. I knew that for me, I didn't quote unquote want to be picky, but I knew it had to be the right fit for my
Yeah,
family, and for me. And I can honestly say this is the absolute perfect fit for me, and I'm so happy about YSU and this opportunity. And I give a lot of credit to my agent. We do have agents here in women's basketball, so I feel like I have one of the best agents in the business, in Brian Stanchek. And he's been with me now for a couple of years. And so we've had great conversations and talked about different jobs. And I've turned down some jobs that maybe weren't the right fit for me. And but when the Youngstown State, opportunity opened up, he got on the phone with the athletic director, and they had some good conversations. And then it kind of goes from there. You talk with the AD, you kind of feel each other out.
yeah,
It's it's not as much to speed dating, but it kind of is, because
yeah.
you get to know each other pretty quickly. And then I felt here at Youngstown State like they really, really wanted me, for a lot of different reasons. But, the whole process, I felt like I was their number one candidate. They wanted me. They wanted me to build this program. And so that was a great feeling.
That's
And
awesome.
like I said, it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up.
So, you mentioned, you got to find the right fit for you and right fit for your family. you're married with you got 3 kids, like you mentioned earlier, you got your 1-year-old daughter. What are your and then you have 2 boys, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. So your daughter might not have an opinion yet, but what do your boys think about, mom being in charge of a whole basketball program and, having, arenas and getting to go and watch mom coach on the sidelines?
Well, I will say my daughter is calm, the most calm when she's in the gym. So I think
There
that's
you
when,
go.
when I was carrying her and I was in the heart of practice. So I think she loves the hustle and bustle, the whistles and the sounds and all that.
Yeah,
So, but my boys think it's the coolest thing in the world that their mom is a Division I basketball coach, and every program I've been at, they have really just they have been enamored. Whether it was Zippy, the mascot,
oh yeah,
to Cleveland State, just loving the green and yeah. And now at YSU, I've had some pretty cool mascots. So we are the Penguins here, and so they
yeah,
love that we're Penguins. They also like to draw, so they draw different mascots and whatnot. So I got some artwork up in here in my office, but they love it. I think their friends think it's pretty cool too, so they brag
yeah.
about me and but we try to really, have our family around our program as much as we can, without it being a distraction. And, so they do, they enjoy being around the girls. They enjoy coming to games. When mom's working on the weekends, they come down here and they get shots up in Beagley or our practice gym. And so I really like, having them around the program. And I think it's a good thing.
That's pretty cool. It gives them a really good opportunity to, kind of fall in love with the game too. So over your career, what's your, favorite memory? What's something that stands out to you across your career?
As a player or coach?
Either,
Um,
both.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah, however you want to. Yeah,
I'll go, I'll go both. As a player, like I said, went to University of Richmond. Maybe didn't get to play as much as I had hoped, but by my senior year, I actually was a little bit healthy, and so had a little bit of a role on our senior team. And we went to the WNIT Final Four, which I thought was really cool,
that's
and beat
awesome.
some really good people. We beat South Florida, we beat Florida State, and then Creighton actually ended my career over at Creighton. So, but to get to the Final Four, I thought that was really cool. As a coach, I've had I think a lot of cool experiences. For me, it's all about the relationships. But I will say, at Akron, when Jordan Dawson became the player of the year in the MAC, and there were some really good players that year. And when I was actually allowed to announce, to her and our team in that circle that she had won the player of the year over the likes of Deasia Fair, who was at Buffalo. And that was probably one of the coolest moments in my coaching
I
career.
remember that video.
Yeah. That video was priceless. So to see
Yeah,
her reaction, but also the reaction of her teammates, and
yeah,
again, just the culture that we were able to establish there was really cool.
that's awesome. So, couple more questions here. What does your prep going into a game look like? Obviously, basketball is constant. You have multiple games in a week. So how far ahead do you start looking at opponents? Do you, focus on certain games over others? Is it a thing where, you're constantly looking 3 games out? What does your prep look like going into a game?
Yeah, I really try to take it one game at a time, and the most important game is the next game for me. Even though there are some rivalries that are built in, that maybe holds a little bit more weight,
Yeah.
but really it's one game at a time. And I'm a big film watcher. I love to watch film. For me, I'm a morning person. So, Dave, I get up like really early. My husband is the exact opposite of me. He's a night owl, but um, I get a lot of my work done in the morning, a lot of film watching. And usually for me, it's like a 2-day prep, I will say. My assistants work really, really hard. And so whoever has a scout is probably doing like a week out of a prep. So they'll like debrief me after our last game and kind of give me a rundown. But then I would say we try to, schedule when we can, like a 2 day prep, so that we're able to, watch enough film, on our opponent, implement some things that we want to do, from an X's and O's standpoint, and then present the scout to our team. And then leading up to game day, I'm still watching film and finding ways, that I can put our team in a position to be successful, and highlight our strengths, and take advantage of their weaknesses.
Yeah. And then final question, what do you want your legacy to be when your career's over? A lot of people think when they think about coaching, they think mainly about the championships and the wins and the losses and stuff like that. Obviously, those are important, but what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah, I would agree. Definitely have aspirations and goals to cut down some nets here, and
Yeah.
win some Horizon League championships eventually and all that. But for me, it's always just been being a great person. I want people to remember me that, she really took care of her teams, both on and off the court. The relationship piece is huge. I have great relationships, with a lot of my former players, and the best thing I get is when they give me a call and are like, "Hey, coach, I got a job promotion," or we're going to get married, or I'm having my first child. Those are the things that really really mean a lot to me. And so I think just making sure everybody remembers me as just being a really good person.
That's awesome. So I have a couple quick questions. Same questions I asked to everybody just to kind of
Okay,
go random on it.
sure.
So the first is if you could have dinner with any person, past or present, who would it be?
Hmm. I'm going to say my dad. So my dad passed away a little over a year ago, and that was a tough time, for me and our family. And so I would give anything to have another dinner with him, but honestly, really to talk to him about YSU, and he would have absolutely loved this place.
Yeah,
So I would love that.
that's very cool. What is your favorite venue that you have coached or played in?
Oh, I'm definitely an old school basketball junkie. So in college, I got to play in the Palestra, which was awesome, and then I've gotten to coach in Hinkle. We played
Oh, that's
Butler,
cool.
so those two venues were really really neat.
That's awesome. And then you probably don't have a whole lot of time for it, but what TV show are you currently watching, or if you're not watching anything, what's your favorite show?
So my husband and I try to watch shows, Dave, but that never happens. So
Yeah.
he ends up watching shows, and I watch like 5 minutes and then fall asleep. So um, I was a big Bachelor fan in college, and then even out of college. But yeah, don't have time for that. I love the Ozarks. Ozarks was one of my
Mhm.
favorites, and then we've tried to get into Billions a little bit, but
Okay.
again, I don't have the time to
Yeah.
watch.
I mean, I
Yeah,
I kinda use this as recommendations, so
yeah,
Uh, I got a little list running.
yeah.
So that is the last question I've got for you. If you have anything, that you want people to know, anything you wanna say, now's your time.
No, I just appreciate, the time, having me on, and, just come on out and watch some Penguins basketball. Bear with us because we got 10 new faces, and 6 of them are true freshmen. So, but I love our team. They've been here now a week, and they've really bought in and have unbelievable energy. So can't wait to get into the gym and have our next workout with them. But I think it's going to be a fun, exciting year for YSU women's basketball.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, coach. I know you're busy, so I appreciate you cutting out a little bit of time for me.
Great. Thanks, Dave.